Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to 1.5, Adding and Subtracting Real Numbers. Our SWABAT is to find sums and differences of real numbers. Vocabulary. My first vocabulary word for us today is absolute value. Usually denoted by two bars with some number in between them. Look for the straight lines that's going to denote that for us. And the absolute value is a distance a number is from 0 on a number line. The distance a number is from 0 on a number line. So here's 0. Let's say I wanted the absolute value of -3. Well, I'm going to look at -3, and its distance is 3 units away from 0. Oops, I almost wrote 0. So the absolute value of -3 is 3. Opposites are two numbers that are the same distance from 0 on a number line, but on opposite sides. So if this is -3, what's the opposite of -3? Well, what's the same distance away but on the opposite side? +3. So 3 and -3 are opposites. 3 and -3 are opposites. What's the absolute value of 3? Because it's 3 units away, it's also 3. All right, opposites. Opposite of 5, -5. Opposite of -13 is +13. Opposite of 1/2 is -1/2. Perfect. Now, everyone's favorite, use a number line to find each sum. People hate using number lines, and to be honest with you, I thought about skipping this portion of it, but I'm not. The reason why is because this really does lead us into graphing a little bit when we start thinking about slope to intercept form. That's the connection for those of you that have seen that before. So I like it, and I'm going to use it, and so are you. Why? Mostly because I said so. So for adding numbers to finding the sum, if the number is positive, we're going to go right. If the number is negative, we're going to go left. It's that simple. I do, as a left-handed person, slightly resent the fact that I have to go left for the negative side, but I'm trying to work past that. Another note that I want us to know is that we'll always start at the first number, and the second number will tell me where to move. Kind of like the y-intercept and the slope for later on. Sneak peek, spoiler alert. So I'm going to start at -7. So here's -5, 6, -7. And then I'm going to move where? Well, this is a +8, so I'm going to move to the right 8 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm landing at 1. So -7 plus 8 is 1. Good. For the next one, I'm going to start at 5. And then I'm going to move 10 places. But I'm going to move to the left on this one. I'm moving to the left. Why? Because it's negative. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So the result of 5 plus -10 is -5. Now, do I want you to use a number line for every single thing? Not really. Why? Because sometimes the numbers get a little bit outrageously large, and you will be drawing a number line for days. It's not the goal. So some tips for adding real numbers, positive and negative numbers. When I say real numbers, that's what we're talking about. Well, you have two different scenarios. Scenario 1 is when the signs are the same. Write this down. What do we do? Well, we are going to add the numbers and we're going to keep the sign. Think about this. If I have a negative number that I'm starting with and I am adding another negative number to it, I'm just going to be a more negative person. I'm going to be a more negative value, just bigger. If I'm positive already and I'm adding more positivity, more positive numbers to myself, then my result is going to be positive, but it's just going to be a bigger positive. On the other side, when the signs are, my nails are still jacked. When the signs are different, what do we do? Well, keyword from vocabulary that we saw before means difference, correct? Think about difference. Difference. I did have to sound that out. Different, difference. So I'm going to subtract the numbers. And this time I'm going to keep the sign of whichever one was larger. Kind of like one of those life lessons right there. You're positive, and then you get these people in your lives that end up being negative. They kind of just suck up all the positivity out of you, and then you end up being a more negative person. Not goals. So let's try a couple of these if you don't mind. Find each sum. Negative 36 plus negative 13. Now my signs are the same, negative and a negative, so I'm going to add the numbers. So I'm going to add off to the side here 36 and 13. I like to use these margins really just to show my work. So I get 949. And it says to keep the sign of the, keep the sign. I'm negative and I'm more negative, so I have a negative 49. Look at how that works. For the next one, I have 19 plus negative 30. My signs are different for this one. Different signs. I didn't line those up like that on purpose. That's funny. I'm going to use pencil though. Different signs, I'm going to subtract the numbers. 30 minus 19 is 11. And I want to keep the sign, so I found the difference. And I want to keep the sign of the larger number. So which one has a little bit more power to it? This 30 is overwhelming the positivity of the 19. So I'm going to say this is negative 11. You like it? I love it. Some decimal time. I have negative 2.2 plus negative 16.7. Signs are the same, so I'm going to add them up. Not quite doing that one confidently in my head, so I'm showing my work here. And I am getting 18.9. And then, of course, I'm going to ask myself, is it positive or negative? Well, because I started with negative and I add more negativity, I'm going to stay negative, only be more. So negative 18.9. Fraction action, everyone's favorite F word, not that one, fraction. In order for me to add, beautiful people, I need a common denominator. So I'm kind of disregarding this for now, skipping, not looking at the numerators at all. But I'm thinking about this 4 and this 8, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, what do they both go into? My least common multiple, or least common denominator for both of these numbers would be 8. So how do I do that? Well, I went from 4 to 8, so I'm going to multiply times 2 in the denominator. And whatever I do the denominator, I must also do to the numerator. So I'm going to multiply by 2 up top as well. 3 times 2, 6. Now, this already had it, so I'm going to leave it the same, negative 3 over 8. When I'm adding or subtracting fractions, I keep the denominator. And then what I'm doing here is I'm going to add these two. 6 plus negative 3, different signs, so I'm going to take the difference, subtract them, and I get 3. Positive 3, why? Because my bigger number is positive. So positive 3 over 8 for that one. Okay, so that happens with the blackout there only because I'm in a classroom, and when I'm sitting for too long, the lights go off. Don't worry about it though, we're safe. Tips for subtracting real numbers. So unlike addition, you have to do a little bit of something to it. Now, at the end of the day, here's what we're doing. We're adding the opposite. And then after that, we're going to buzzkill. Follow the rules, because now we're adding for addition. Thing about it is, people have different ways of saying it. Keep, switch, I don't know, same, change. People have different slogans. I don't know everyone's. Keep, flip, switch, or something like that. But at the end of the day, we are adding the opposite, which is not really that complicated when you think about it. So let's try a couple things here. And then after that, we'll have the same stuff that we just did 4 times on the other side. So add the opposite. So the first one will always stay the same. That's the same thing, or keep. But now subtraction becomes addition. That's one thing that needs to change. And then also, this needs to be the opposite. So opposite of positive 12, negative 12. So this is what we're looking at now. And then I'm going to follow the rules for addition. They have the same signs, so I'm going to add the numbers, which is 20, and I'm going to keep the sign the same, negative, because I just became more and more and more negative. Add the opposite. So we're looking at 62 plus negative 72. I'm thinking, oh, 71. Can't just change the numbers like that. I'm going to subtract the numbers, and when I do, I get 9 because the signs are different. And I'm going to keep the sign of the bigger number, which for me is going to be negative. So negative 9. You like it? I love it. Little decimals, some decimals, and a little bit of fraction action for us. So for this one, add opposite. You don't have to write it twice like I'm doing. I'm just trying to show you what my new and improved equation looks like so that you can see a little bit more clearly. So what do I have? Same signs. So I'm going to add these two numbers. I kind of disregard the sign when I'm adding them just so it doesn't mess with my head. And I get 10.3. And is it positive or is it negative? Started off negative, added more negativity. So I'm going to stay negative. Actually, I'm going to be more negative. All right, 2/3 minus 1/2. Beautiful people. Last fraction action for now. Add the opposite. Now I need a common denominator. What is it for 3 and 2? I believe it is 6. So for this one, I'm going to multiply by 2. Little review for us. And I'm going to multiply by 3. This was negative, yeah. So negative 3. Denominator will still stay the same. And then I'm looking at 4 plus negative 3. 4 plus negative 3. Different signs, so I will take the difference and get 1. Because this is positive and bigger, I'm going to keep that as positive 1/6. Okay, we've evaluated expressions before. I want us to do that a little bit now. So, if you would please, let's plug in. Instead of m, I'm going to write negative 4 plus n, which is 5, minus p, which is 1.5. Okay, this double negative. When you have a negative out in front, it really means the opposite. That's what we've been seeing here, here, and here. So the opposite of negative 4, what's the opposite of negative 4? Positive 4. I'm just going to rewrite the other stuff. Plus 5 minus 1.5. Order of operations. On the same lines, I'm going to move from left to right and add these two and get 9 minus 1.5. I don't know what that is in my head. I'm subtracting. I get 7.5 positive. Oh, you are kind of adding the opposite. Positive because the bigger number is positive. And there you have it. Thank you so much for joining me and have a wonderfully blessed day.